What's up guys, my name is Liam and today we're going to be taking a look at the Projects Gaming Sleeper. This is another budget option currently going for $49.99 on Amazon.com. So how does it stack up against the competition, and more importantly, is it going to be the perfect gaming mouse for you? Let's check it out. Before we get started today, I did want to let you know this was sent out to me by Projects Gaming. However, everything you're going to be hearing in this video is going to be my own words and my own opinions. Taking a look at the box, the artwork on the front, and here are some of the details that are listed on the back in case you wanted to check that out. Inside the box, it does come with this USB-C cable. It also comes with the 1K dongle and the dongle adapter. They also do include an extra set of these Teflon PTFE skates, and there's a white version included, and then obviously you got the mouse, and the mouse did come installed with these black skates. Real simple functions over here at the bottom. Here's what the cutouts look like. You'd have the power button over here on the right side, the DPI button over here on the left side. This does come with a 3370 sensor in it, and these skates are the same typical type of Teflon PTFE skates that do come on these cheaper options. They do give you a little bit of a less smoother and slower glide than the 100% PTFE style skates. It does have these holes all over the shell on the top and on the sides, but I do want to say that the actual shell integrity on this, it feels incredibly solid. So this is honestly one of the best build quality budget options that I've ever gotten my hands on, just all around. Even pushing really hard into it, I can't get any type of bending or flexing, so really good there. And as far as the holes go themselves, you know, you can actually feel them, the texture of them on your hands. As you can see, they're not very big, they're smaller, but if you're to move your thumb up and down here, you do kind of catch the edges along the bottom of your fingers. And when it comes to the overall coating on here, there is no additional coating. It is just a smooth plastic. And I do want to say that it does feel very smooth. And I did kind of find that the surface of this, even though the holes do add a little bit of extra grip there for me, it does feel just a little bit more on the slippery side. The switches they're using are the Omron 50 millions, and in here they feel really good. They feel nice and clicky, nice and snappy. They are a little bit heavier than the Huano Blue Shell Pink Dots, but I myself didn't have any issues with the spammability on these clicks or anything like that. And the overall implementation is really good. No matter where I click on here, I didn't notice like any real dead spots or anything like that. And even as you get further in the back, it does just get a little bit heavier. But again, overall, they feel really good. And if you were to come down here in the front, there is very minimal pre-travel, but you do get a little bit more bend and post-travel. If you were to click normally in the middle, this is kind of where I would click it, then the pre-travel and post-travel all feels on point. There's like almost no left to right play. You do get just very minimal teetering, but I didn't even notice this when I was using it in gameplay or anything like that, so really solid there. And the final thing I did want to mention is mouse 1 and 2, they do kind of have these aggressive comfort grooves on them. The scroll wheel does feel pretty different. It is nice and tight in here, feels solid, but the steps on here are very light and they're very indistinguishable. So I didn't have any issues where I accidentally scrolled it in game or anything like that myself personally, but it does have a rubberized top here. And aside from having the really light steps, it does have a pretty solid center click there. It is a little bit on the heavier side. This is absolutely one of the best implementation of side buttons out of all these cheaper mice that I have. There is like actually almost no pre-travel on them, and the post-travel isn't too bad either, and all around the experience is just really solid. There's no wobble or side-to-side play on them, hardly at all. No matter where you press on the side button back all the way up to the front, there's no like excessive tilting or anything like that. So honestly, these side buttons feel on par, on level with some of the more premium options out there around the $100 range. So really good stuff from them there on that. So like I was saying, in terms of build quality, this is absolutely one of the most solid options out there that I've gotten my hands on so far. So let's go ahead and drop the click and build quality sound check. And when it comes to the weight and balance, on my scale, looks like we got this coming in at approximately 53.0 grams. And everything about the feeling of this, especially the balance front to back, left to right, it absolutely feels nailed down. And as far as the performance goes, it did fall right in line with some of the other 3370 offerings out there, using the CompX CPU inside, and the software very simple and straightforward. We've seen the same software in a lot of other mice. It does allow you to drop the debounce setting down to 0 milliseconds. Then other than that, all I had to do here is adjust my DPI and make sure that the 1000 Hertz polling rate was selected, and these are the optimal settings that I prefer using it at. This actually has an incredible shape. As you can see here, up on the front, it does feel really flat, but then it does have this aggressive curve getting wider out at the rear, and the top curve profile is pretty soft going from front to back. So this honestly does kind of fall right in line with the Delux M800, with the VGN Dragonfly. It is kind of close to those offerings. So let's go ahead and jump into the shape comparison so I can give you guys a better general idea. Starting out, let's compare it to the Mchose A5. On the bottom profile, the A5 is a bit more wide here in the middle part, and both of these are flat from the middle to the front, but the sleeper is a bit more narrow at the front, but it does have that more aggressive curve and flaring out towards the rear, making it feel wider towards the back. When looking at both of them from the back, I do feel like the sleeper does kind of drop off a little bit more aggressively down to the sides, and at the top of the mouse, it feels just slightly a bit more narrow when you're holding it in the hands as well. On the side, the A5 does have that slower curve out like the Logitech G Pro Superlight, so I do feel like you kind of feel it a little bit more down here in the bottom, and it kind of makes it feel just a little bit longer in the hands. Next, when comparing it to the VGN Dragonfly F1. Same thing over here on the bottom, where the VGN Dragonfly does have an aggressive curve out to the rear. I do feel like it is just slightly a bit wider on the sleeper, but the VGN Dragonfly does curve out more aggressively towards the front. So the front of the sleeper feels flatter from the middle up to the front, and it does feel a bit more narrow as well. On the rear, the same thing again, the sleeper kind of has more of an aggressive drop off from the top middle down to the sides, making it feel just a little bit more narrow at the top of the hands, where on the VGN Dragonfly, it does kind of curve off less aggressively. And then finally, when looking at both these on the side, you can see they don't sit that far apart from each other, though the top of the VGN Dragonfly does feel just a little bit more flat than the sleeper does. Alright, and finally we'll be comparing it to the Delux M800 Ultra. The shape of these mice, they do feel very similar to me, but they do have their differences. Again, over here on the M800 Ultra, it does have a more aggressive curve and flare out towards the front, so the very front of the sleeper here does feel more narrow, but they both have that kind of aggressive rear flare, and I do feel like the sleeper does flare out a little bit more aggressively, and it's just a little bit wider in the back. And the top profile on these, not that far apart, but again, the sleeper does curve off more aggressively to the sides and feels just slightly a bit more narrow at the top. And on the side, the M800 Ultra, as you can see here, it does kind of drop off more aggressively to the rear, so I do kind of feel like you can kind of move up on the mouse a little bit more, and it kind of has a little bit more of a pronounced mid hump, but this one does kind of taper off just a little bit slower, so you do kind of get a little bit more contact with the back of the mouse on the sleeper. Alright guys, so that about wraps things up on the Projects Gaming Sleeper. Even though the technology is behind in some of the other offerings that are currently in the same ballpark out there on the market, the overall feeling of this, it does feel really solid, the buttons feel great, and it does have a little bit more of a different shape with it being flatter in the front and a little bit more narrow. So at the end of the day, like I always say, shape is king. And if you're kind of used to the same performance or don't really care so much about the 4K, the fact that this has ready and easily availability in the US on Amazon, then I could definitely say that it would be worth checking out. All right guys, so if you have any questions or feel like there's anything that I left out, please let me know down in the comments below. If you've enjoyed watching this video and are interested in seeing more videos like this in the future, please drop this video a like and subscribe to my channel. I've left affiliate links down in the description below for some of these mice if you're interested in picking any of them up and supporting the channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.